I will introduce, I am the moderator of this panel. I am the director of the Global Editors Network, an association gathering editors-in-chief from all platforms, so broadcast, print, pure online players. So we have on board CNN, BBC, Le Monde, The Guardian, New York Times. We have pure players as Dan Gilmore. Jeff Jarvis was a board member until a few months. So we gather really editors-in-chief from all platforms, and we have 900 members. We launched the Data Journalism Awards 1 year ago, so it is the second edition, and you will have the possibility not to see the winners, the 8 winners of the Data Journalism Awards will be shown, will be presented in Paris in 2 months. Here in Perugia, as last year, it is the shortlist. So we received 300 projects. There were 300 finalists, submissions, and here Antoine Laurent, the deputy director of GEN, will introduce 73 projects, and the debate, so we will not show you 73 projects, but the debate today with you, with the audience, will be around the latest trends of data journalism. I know that Christopher Potter from the festival wanted to have a lot of sessions about data journalism, and here you will have the latest trends about data visualization, about data journalism on mobiles, everything. So the latest trends with, at the beginning, I repeat, 300 projects coming from more than 70 countries. So it's really a sort of worldwide poll. For the on this table, so the jury members, so the people who will decide in June who will win. So from left to right, Paul Radu, just here, from Investigative Center of Journalism, and really a specialist of data journalism. Peter Barron from Google, Director of Communication of Google, and Google is our main partner for this operation since the beginning. So it is supported, the Data Journalism Awards are supported by Google, and Peter is jury member, and at the extreme right, we will have Aron Pilhofer, from New York Times. So he was sitting here 10 minutes ago in a former panel, and he's again here. So thank you, Aron, for being with us. And he's also a jury member. You have also another jury member here from EGC. So Liliana Bounegru is a jury member also. So let's start. Antoine, you have the floor for introducing the 73 finalists and launching this debate about the latest trends of data journalism.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So this session is, of course, a debate about the latest trends about data journalism in 2013, but most importantly, it's really the announcement of the 73 finalists of this edition of the Data Journalism Awards. So on your side, so you will be shortly handed out the list of nominees, you can consult it online on datajournalismawards.org. We won't go through the 73 finalists, so on your side, it's really, I think, interesting and important to browse this list and see who are the different nominees. We have, for example, a few nominees from Italy here. So this will be important, interesting for the Italian journalists here. We have Wired Italy nominated in the data-driven investigative journalism section. We also have Il Fatto Quotidiano, I think in another section. So don't hesitate once you have the list to browse it and see who are the interesting nominees for you. In general, what I can say as the director of the Data Journalism Awards is that this short list of nominees is very impressive by its quality compared with last year. The consistency of the quality in general is much higher. We also have in the final round, so these nominees, more countries than last year. We have very, so I will quote the list you have here in the press release. We have projects and candidates from Argentina, Austria, Brazil, Chile, France, Hong Kong, Hungary, Kenya, Romania, the UK, the United States, and Venezuela. So there, if we look at the statistics of the 73 finalists, there is a big representation of the United States and the UK, but also a very notable and very important presence of Latin America, with entries from Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Venezuela. So I think it's very important to note that, because it's really an important trend. I mentioned it also. We have several projects from Italy. Probably Italy, one of the most innovative countries in Europe regarding data journalism, and I already read about that lately. There's a very interesting ecosystem. Another very notable fact, we still have, as last year, very big players, very present, like The Guardian from the United Kingdom, with 5 projects nominated in several categories this year. I will maybe give a few details about how the selection went, because this year we decided to introduce a new category with the data journalism website or section. So we have this year 4 categories we would like to reward, and within these 4 categories we had designed 2 subcategories, big media and small media. But this year we didn't, for 2 of these categories, we didn't get applications really according to this subcategory. So this explains why for the category data journalism application or service, data-driven application or service, and data journalism website or section, we decided to suppress, forget this subcategory, and we have only 1 category. This is, I already, this is mentioned in the press release. This is just an indicative selection for the work of the jury, which will start next week. So we have here several representatives of the jury. The jury is now free to analyze and and work on this selection and to decide on how many awards it will give and if it will follow this this division we decided as the pre-jury on the categories. If you wish to go further, you now have the list. You will be able to browse all the entries nominated online. So I think this must appear on the screen now. You can find this gallery of entries on datajournalismawards.org, and I will now just to show you the quality of the entries, maybe show you a couple of projects. We've had, for example, in the data journalism website category, a very interesting project by Reuters called Connecting China. This is one of the, to date, one of the most ambitious attempts at visualizing the connections between the power and the different social elites. So here you have Connected China, produced by Thomson Reuters. A very impressive piece. Very visual, a very long-term investigation in the structures of power in China, led by Reginald Chua, the head of data journalism at Thomson Reuters. So it's what you can do with that kind of application is endless and very interesting and almost infinite. So I will let you discover this yourself online, but just to give you a few examples of what can be done with. We have several examples of big projects like that. We also had, and this shows also now the level data journalism reached. We've had an entry from the International Center for Investigative Journalism in the data-driven investigation category. It is not the entry or the project you're probably thinking about money laundering in all around the world. It's about human body parts trafficking. It's as impressive as their latest work. Maybe I'm going to show one more, or we can start the. Internet a bit slow, yeah.
Just explain.
You have here, for example, a very interesting and simple entry by a freelance journalist, freelancer in France called Jean Abiatessi. This is very interesting because it shows that data journalism is not only about big interactive news teams within big media organizations. So here this is a very simple visualization of the art market.
In France or worldwide?
No, this is worldwide. And also for this year's edition of the contest, we introduced a new prize we will announce during the data journalism ceremony at the Genius Summit in June in Paris. A new prize called the Public Choice Award. So this means everybody can now go on our website and browse this gallery of the nominated entries and vote for their favorite entry. And the most voted entry will receive this award, the Public Choice Award in, okay, so. So we will maybe now start the debate with the jury members. You can already browse the list and browse the entries online, and don't hesitate after this debate to ask us questions about the selection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antoine. So I remind you that it is the second year. We were in the same room last year for announcing the first awards, and you could, Antoine told you that the quality improves, the number of projects raised, and I think it is a good trend. Nevertheless, I think it will be good to have this debate with three specialists here about the latest trends of data journalism. So if you can speak about this topic, and first I will give the floor to a good observer of digital journalism in general, so Peter Barron at Google. So Peter, what do you think about the latest trends, and what is the role of Google in this contest?
Yeah, thanks Bertrand. Yeah, I just wanted to say a quick word about why Google is involved, first of all, with the Global Editors Network and also with the Data Journalism Awards, which we've supported from the beginning. And we were in a session last night talking about Google's relationship with the news industry. And really what we're trying to do in this difficult period for the news industry is to help stimulate digital innovation. And data journalism, we think, is a fantastic way to do that, because one of the big challenges that news organizations face is keeping people on their pages for longer. And we know that video and visualizations and data journalism is more appealing than simple text alone in terms of engaging the readers. And you can see, for example, in some of the projects there, like that Chinese project, how you could explore it and spend a long time with the data and the visualizations. I suppose in terms of journalism more broadly, data journalism is kind of talked of as something new, but actually, obviously, data has been central to journalism right from the very beginning. And you could even say, I suppose, that the story of Noah's Ark is an early example of data journalism. I think what has changed is that the ability to make sense of vast amounts of publicly available data has changed very, very rapidly over the last few years. So, for example, in terms of Google's tools, at the simplest level, you have tools like Google Trends, where you can see what large numbers of people are searching for at any time, through more sophisticated tools like the Ngram viewer, where you can look at what words are appearing in the books that have been digitized over the last couple of hundred years. And then at the more sophisticated level that you're seeing here, Fusion Tables is really the key tool that makes publicly available data extremely visual and easy to digest. So a lot of governments make a huge amount of data available, but very often in forms that is very indigestible. So for example, cycling accidents in Italy. No doubt there are long lists of every cycling accident that has happened in Italy, but if you look at the spreadsheets, it's probably in a very messy form, and no one would take the time to look through it and look at the particular streets. But in a very, very short period of time, you can take that data set and translate it into a visual map or a heat map, which is extremely useful if you're a cyclist. You can see where it's safe to go and where it's not safe to go. So That's really what has changed, and the opportunities, I think, for journalists and for journalism are really huge. Now, last year when we started this, the first one the awards were announced last June, and when we launched it, I think it was in November before that. We sat down with the Global Editors Network, and we kind of had quite a serious conversation about whether the data journalism was well enough developed around the world to justify a global competition. I think a year ago it was a little bit of a gamble. I think we said, look, there are obviously some pretty good examples in the US and the UK, but is there really enough scope around the world to make these awards justified? We took that.
We expected 70 projects and we received more than 250. Yes,
Yeah.
It was really a gamble.
So it was a great surprise for us, and I think we were very pleased and pleasantly surprised that, yes, of course, there were great entries from the UK and the US, but there were also winners from Russia and Switzerland and Poland. So really fantastic work. So last year we said, let's do it again, let's make it bigger and better, and there's no doubt that both the numbers, but also I think the high quality level around the world from all the huge number of countries that Antoine mentioned has been extremely impressive. So we're very, very encouraged by the quality of the data journalism that's going on. But I think we're still at a very, very early stage. Given the huge numbers of news organizations around the world thinking about how they innovate and how they take their readers with them in the digital age, the opportunities for digital journalism are really only just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Before giving the floor to Paul and Aron, I think we will show you every time one more project, not only about data visualization, but some interesting projects. So, Antoine?
Here you see a project by the Los Angeles Times selected in the data-driven investigation category for the big media organizations. This is a huge investigation run by the Los Angeles Times about how fast was the Los Angeles Fire Department to go to all the different areas of the city. So here you see the most impressive part of this investigation, which is the map where the intervention delays are visualized. So you can see there, according to the colors, where the fire department is quicker to go or slower to go. But of course, with this interactive map, they produced a series of text stories to give some context around this map. So this is a very interesting and big project.
And now, Paul, so we start this debate and we will have the question from the audience. So for you, compared to last year, what are the latest trends? And some of them good, some of them maybe bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very inspiring to be able to review all these applications. And one of the things that I noticed this year, just by skimming through these applications, is that last year's applications have been an inspiration from some of this year's people that applied. So, for instance, I see lots of resemblance between what you just showed right now, the application from LA, and an application from last year from Ireland. That counted the response time, for ambulances to reach various parts of Ireland. So this is very, very inspiring, actually, because you see that this is an ongoing trend and people are building on the other experiences. Now, what I also noticed, and again, I just skimmed through these applications, so I don't have deep knowledge of them, but I see that we're moving quite fast from what used to be just aesthetic, from what used to be just data porn or visual porn sometimes, to meaningful and useful applications of visual techniques and data processing, data, and all sorts of things that you can actually do with data. So it's about going in depth, much more in depth. It's not just about using the publicly available data. because a lot of the data that is useful and that is that can help people make decisions is not data that is held by e-governments, is not data that is in the public domain. So right now I see a mixture of this sort of hidden data and the public data, which creates, I think, a lot of value. So people are going...
What do you call the hidden data?
You know, a lot of the data is not publicly available. You know, a lot of the data sits behind paywalls sometimes, or sits in databases that are not very useful to journalists. You know, their cooperation with civic hackers can really help, because these civic hackers, they can free some of this data that is not very useful at first, you know, and can reshape it by scraping it, by re-indexing it, by creating new tools. So basically, we're now seeing people going beyond just the pure kind of storytelling. I mean, storytelling is very important, and it will always be very important. But storytelling in these times, in this age of data, should also be judged according to the usefulness, to what value brings to the society. And so I'm seeing these kind of global tools, you know, that are developed. And for instance, you take an application like the application from Chile, Poderopedia, which can be actually implemented in many other countries, you know, so to map the power in a country or in a context.
Can you develop this specific application from Chile?
Yeah, so Poderopedia is basically an application that maps the people in power and their connections to commercial companies, to various social clubs and so on, so that you have an idea of what trends go into the society and who holds the power and how do they hold onto that power. So it gives the people, you know, the power to actually analyze what's going on, and it gives this sort of overview, this bigger perspective. Now, on the side of problems, the problems that I see is, you know, I see this geographical divide. I mean, most applications are from countries that use the Latin alphabet. There's not much, or we're not reached by much data from countries that use Cyrillics, for instance, you know, or countries that use other type of alphabets. And as I know, there are things that are, you know, happening there as well. You know, I mean, yeah, we see this application from Reuters, which is great, you know, connecting China. It's really amazing. But then, you know, perhaps in the next years we'll see applications coming from inside China, you know, and so on. So.
We received one from China, but the person in charge never fulfilled completely the submission. So we were in contact with this person, but he never fulfilled the whole form. So I think, yes, next year we will have submissions from China.
Yeah. I will just conclude by just a few ideas, what I see as future trends, and this is, you know, you have all this movement right now of evidence-based activism, and this is, you know, it's all this movement that tries to transform data and our investigative data, for instance, into action. So there you have, you know, growing cooperation between investigative reporters, civic hackers, activists, you know, and other categories of people. I also see some, I mean, a lot of usefulness of this data journalism in actually acting pre-crime, in actually preventing crime and giving people choices, you know, especially the global data and this global kind of data reporting, where you're exposing, you know, persons and their companies, you know, and I'm talking about persons that are involved in wrongdoing and that export criminal models from country to country. So I think, you know, this type of journalists can deter them from conducting business as usual. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And before giving the floor to Aron, maybe one word about Poderopedia, so from Chile, Antoine.
So Poderopedia from Chile, which just mentioned Paul, is a very big project mapping the relationship between people corporations, or different organizations, and visualizing the relationship between these different entities. So here we should be able to see the maps, but apparently some plugin must be missing in the browser. But you can see here that you have the different sections about people, companies, and other types of organizations, and you can browse this huge database online.
How many people in the database, you think? No.
I don't know. I can't.
But it's quite similar to the project done by Thomson Reuters about the power in China, and it's exactly the goal of the Data Journalism Awards, that when something works, as this big database in Chile, then we tell people, we tell other organizations in Italy, in France, everywhere, saying you have here a great idea. Why not doing the same in your country? So it's really cross promotion, but cross promotion in the good sense that Poderopedia can be done in every country and will be very helpful to understand the links between the elites, because it is a question of the elites, economic elites, political elites, academics, so how this world, these people are connected. And so really the goal of the Data Journalism Awards is not only to give an award, but really to tell other news organizations, adapt, do the same thing. Here is the great idea. So in French we say, pourquoi réinventer la roue? Why do we have to reinvent the wheel if something works? So that's the goal of the award. Aron, so another point of view, so from the US, so certainly the most sophisticated country for data journalism, because I think more than 25% of the projects of the submissions were done from the US. So really here you have with UK the core of data journalism.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with everything that's been said to this point. The representation across the world of countries that we haven't seen before, countries that have, in many cases, in most cases, have absolutely no tradition of data journalism at all. In many, if not most cases, have weak freedom of information laws, access to data, if there is a freedom of information law at all. I'm really thrilled to see how big a cross section is represented here. I think, as was said earlier, the differential between among the quality has absolutely narrowed, and that's not just across the board. I think it's between the small organizations and the big ones. Just cruising through some of them last night, I would say that some of the entries in some of the quote-unquote small categories could have been certainly competitive and possibly could have beaten out some of the bigger category entries. I'm really delighted to see an attention to design. That's, I think, something new that I think a lot of news organizations are recognizing, that design is an inherent part of storytelling, that if you don't have something that's engaging, that immediately brings you into the narrative, right, I mean, there you go. You can look at this in 1 second and know what this interactive is all about. Too many of the interactives that we've seen to this point are, that have all the design sensibility of an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm glad to see that we're sort of moving away from that. I'm really thrilled. Again, yes, there's a lot of entries from the US, but it's not all the usual suspects. I think this is the first, I don't know that we saw a Reuters entry last year. I may be wrong about that. You see some usual suspects, the Texas Tribune, ProPublica, But I think across the board, you're seeing a lot of organizations that we haven't seen before, even from the US, in some cases the UK. And I'll call out one organization in particular, the Global Mail in Australia. Here's an organization that is modeled after ProPublica in a country, again, that has no tradition whatsoever of data journalism, where there is quite literally 2 journalists until this organization in the country doing this kind of work. And here they are in our second year with a very, very strong entry. I think it shows that data journalism, that this idea that you can create narrative in alternative ways, that sometimes the best storytelling is not the traditional form, the broadcast, the printed word, but more visualization, maps, that there are alternatives to storytelling. I think that idea, that really powerful idea, is starting to really catch on around the world, and that's exciting. I think if there's one, just to add to what Paul said about the future, I think there's one area that we're starting to see that I particularly am interested in, and I know that is starting to kind of emerge in newsrooms, and that's, I'm going to apologize for using this horrendous buzzword immediately, but big data. This idea of applying algorithms to large data sets and drawing insights from those data sets. In many cases, we're talking about data sets that are text. We've started at the Times a small team and within my team to do that, and I know other news organizations are starting to do the same thing. I expect to see that reflected in some of the entries perhaps next year. Maybe even one from the New York Times next year. That would be really exciting. But
okay, Aron. So 2 projects, 2 submissions already discussed, Powerhouse and another from BBC, before giving you the floor for your questions. So do we have a microphone? Yeah, yes. Okay. So, but first, 2 submissions.
So here is the entry by the Global Mail. Aron was mentioning this is a very this entry has been selected in the category for data journalism website or section, and this shows exactly what Aron was describing, just a couple of journalists, but really focusing regularly, almost daily, on analyzing the data, the parliament data in Australia, and producing this great website called Powerhouse, analyzing the data, showing, covering the news of the parliament in a different way, with a very small team, but here the objective is to reward that this way of investing in data journalism, even if the resources of the media are smaller than other media. And I will now show another very interesting entry by the BBC. So the BBC, which was very well represented also last year during the selection. So this is an entry selected in the category for data-driven applications or services. So it's almost a kind of game, a very simple and well-designed application. They classified all the data in the UK about the different social and economical classes, and
Say a word about. Sorry,
yeah.
Say a word about that, 'cause,
yes.
as you know, Britain is completely obsessed with the class
classes,
system.
yes.
And this story came out a few weeks ago and said that instead of the traditional 3 classes, upper class, middle class, and lower class, or working class, there's now 7 different categories of class. And this was quite a controversial story and was heavily debated in the papers. But this is a perfect example of how you can take a story and then turn it into a fantastic piece of engagement, because I promise you it was impossible to read that story on the BBC website without taking the class test. You know, what class are you? And I did it, everybody did it. And there was all kinds of then debate in the paper about whether it was accurate or not, or whether it was appropriate. But as a piece of engagement to keep you on the site for 5-10 minutes, it was a masterstroke.
So I think question from the audience. So if you have questions to one of the jury member, so feel free. And just introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Alessandra Flora, an Italian journalist specializing in public administration and EU affairs. I would like to focus the attention on the lack of skills for example, the Italian journalists, but not only Italian, because I'm a journalist. I have not statistic skills. I'm not a statistic, so it's a problem to use data as you told before. And for example, I would like to ask you if in Europe, or for example in Brussels, there's a permanent journalism school specialized in data journalism. Because for example, I'm 32. I've already finished my university course, and now I need statistical skills on data journalism, and I participated to a one-day course in Rome organized by the Italian economy minister on EU funds and the use of that data in EU funds. But it's not enough for me, and I want to specialize in data journalism, but there are no schools, and it's a problem. And I would like to ask you, for example, why don't you organize a school in Europe? For example, Google, New York Times. Why not?
The truth is, actually, we're kind of already doing many of the things that you described there. So we work with the Global Editors Network on something called Editors Lab, which is precisely this, to expose a group of editors across the news industry in a certain country, put them together with developers and work on tools. And of course, a lot of that involves data journalism. We also, the European Journalism Centre are obviously very, very heavily involved in this, and I think they have actually been doing some workshops here. But we're working with them on trying to spread out teaching and knowledge in the area of data journalism. I think it would be brilliant if there was a kind of global data journalism community, and I think these awards are kind of the beginning of that, because it is sharing knowledge from country to country, showing good ideas. But imagine if you had a kind of a living and breathing community where every day you could go and have a look at what people are doing and what's popping up in news websites around the world. The final point I would make is it's not that difficult. Simon Rogers, who is certainly one of the world's greatest data journalists and really a pioneer in this area, wrote quite a controversial article a while ago saying that data journalism is the new punk rock. If you know 3 chords, you can form a band, you can write a song. So it's not that hard. And if you go and play around with Google Fusion tables, for example, there's all kinds of tutorials on how to use it, and it's really not difficult to start taking data sets and turning it into visualizations.
If I may. Yeah, if I may just add a few things. I think key to data journalism is collaboration with hackers. And so it would be really good if you could identify the hacker space, in Italy, and get in touch with those people. Because in the end, I mean, it's not very, very useful to turn the journalist into a programmer. It's much, much better, actually, and, you can get a lot more by cooperating with artists, with visual artists, with hackers, with everybody. So you just have to identify those people. And yeah, it would be great if you'd have like a central node from where you could ask for help, from hackers, from people that know how to use these tools.
Can I point to a couple other resources? In the States, there's IRE, NICAR, Investigative Reporters and Editors. They do training mostly in the States, but they do some training abroad, and specifically in the UK. Every summer there's a conference in London at City University, and there's all kinds of training that we do, and that happens in July. There's also a nascent data journalism community starting here in Italy. And you can find them at datajournalism.it, is that right? Yeah. And that's started by Elizabeth Tola and Guido Romero, and who else? I'm looking. And who? So there you go, right there. There's your source of information. I think over time.
datajournalism.it. One more, we are asked to close the session in a few minutes. One more question from the audience. So have a look on the Italian, finalist. I think really you will see the two projects are interesting. Evidently, there is still a gap between big countries for data journalism and other countries. In France, we selected 2 projects. In Italy, 2 projects. So there is still a gap, but with more energy, more desire, certainly we can fill the gap. So, and it is our hope. Thank you very much. And so go to datajournalismawards.org for the whole list and the links to all the projects. Thank you very much.